Holds the category of property investment advisor in the group. His business is Pfeiffer Property. He's been in business for 28 years and credits his success to compassion, determination, focus, thinking strategically and positively, gratefulness, and the genuine enjoyment of helping others. Scott's married to Jodie. They have a pet cavoodle called Pippa. They live in Qatar and have 5 children: Charles, Amanda, Adam, Rowan, and Gillian, as well as 5 grandchildren: Felicity, Laura, Eva, Max, and Willow. Some of Scott's hobbies and interests include family activities, reading, long-distance running, meditation, not-for-profit boards, and he's a die-hard Sydney Swans fan. Yes. And a member...
So is Eddie's son now.
Yeah. And a member for 17 years, as well as a Knights founding member. Some of his previous jobs include grocery store packer, trainee jockey, rock and stick picker, labourer on wheat silos, penciler and bagman for a bookmaker and a corporate banker. And Scott's burning desire to help other people be successful and happy in their lives and to keep challenging himself in running. And now I'll hand over to you, Scott, and if you can just let us know that something that nobody knows.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Yes, around 4 years ago, Jodie and I went to Melbourne, and we've got close friends in Melbourne, and we go down every year to see them and to go to the races at Flemington. And sitting at this table, it was called a wine appreciation lunch, and after appreciating the wine quite heavily, I found out I was sitting next to a racehorse breeder, and as Bill mentioned, I used to be a trainee jockey. Until I became vertically challenged for that role. I used out at Walgett, just near Eastview, where Simon's grandparents lived. I developed a love for horses. I love being around them, I still do, and I still ride whenever I get the opportunity. And anyway, I was talking to this breeder, and she said, "You know a lot about breeding and horses, don't you?" And I said, "Well, I love breeding, and I'm very interested in it." So anyway, sure enough, we bought a racehorse, didn't we? Well, a share in a racehorse from this breeder, and that was 4 years ago. We decided to make the decision, and we bought this beautiful 3-year-old filly by the name of Luna Diva. And I know I've mentioned this before, that we own a share in a racehorse, but since then she's started racing, she's won 2 races down in Melbourne, and 2 seconds and 2 thirds out of 8 starts. So she's a beautiful horse, lovely nature, and fast. So that's something that nobody knows about me. Now today, I call this Just Do It, this talk, because over the years that I've been in property investment advice, where I help first-time investors, the most common reason that people don't start is they just don't start. They don't do anything, because it's just so hard. And I say to all my clients, look, I'm happy to help you, and I'm happy to find properties for you and go through the process, but you can do this yourself. Just do it. Don't keep putting it off. So that's what I'm calling my talk today. Get started, make it happen, just do it. Don't be like Homer, but that's what a lot of people do. Someone else will do it, not me. So I'm going to go through 3 quick case studies, and I know I've mentioned this guy before, Thomas, but this is the classic example of a guy who, young guy, 27 years old, he said, "I'll never be able to afford to buy a property," and he'd just about given up. And he was saving, a religious saver, IT specialist, his job was secure, and his mum and dad wanted to help him, by the way. So I said, well, the reason why you can't afford to buy a property is because you're looking in a place like Newcastle where you just can't afford it. So why don't you stay at home with mum and dad? This is Thomas and his mum and dad. I'm close to the family, and that's another reason why I use this example, because it meant a lot to me. And I said to his parents, "Are you happy for Thomas to stay at home?" They said, "Yeah, we love it having him here," and he was happy. So I said, "Righto, why don't you stay at home and buy a property somewhere else that's a lot more affordable for you?" So we did. And but the things that jump out at me is that if you compare how much you can borrow to buy your own home compared to buying an investment property, there's a significant difference. Now, in those days, this is back in 2018, his maximum borrowings to buy a home on his salary, because he had a HECS debt, was $320,000. but I worked, and obviously he can't buy a property using those funds. So I did a calculation for him. If he stayed at home and bought an investment property somewhere else based on certain rent, he could borrow $490,000. So it's a whole new ball game for him. So the other thing is affordability. Like, to finance his own home for $320,000, the repayments at the time, based on the current interest rates, would cost him $360 a week. But an investment property for $70,000 more would cost him $87 a week. And it was cash flow neutral after tax. So it's a lot more affordable for him as well. So I found a property for him in Ballarat back in 2018, $416,000, and mum and dad provided a limited guarantee, so he didn't have to pay that lender's mortgage insurance premium. The property was valued last year in April for $620,000. So here he is, he's made a capital gain of over $200,000. Now, there's no way he could do that by saving his way up. And so what he's doing now is he's looking to buy his own home, because what's happened, the property at Ballarat's costing him nothing. In fact, it's just about positively geared because the rents have gone up. So now he's looking at buying his own home because his salary's gone up as well. So he's looking at buying a property in Newcastle or close to Newcastle. So that's the first example of a young person, and they're probably my ideal clients in the sense that I can really help them get started. And once they get started, I've helped, since I started the business, I've helped over 120 clients, and a lot of those have been young people who got them started, and they haven't looked back. And that's his property at Ballarat. Now, self-employed is the other type of category, and this was another classic example of someone who was really worried about not being able to get started in property. She had a 2-year-old son, and she said to me, look, I'm really worried about providing him a financial future. Living in Sydney, renting an apartment down there, and she had $7,000 in super. A sole trader, and this is a classic case of sole traders not having much in super, especially in the construction industry, but she only had $7,000. She had a property settlement from years before and had $85,000 in savings, and again, very concerned about her financial future. So, after spending a couple of meetings with her, I found her a property in Upper Kedron, just west of Queensland, in June 2016. Market appraisal, that was 2 years ago, would have gone up since then, $840,000. So, once again, this is why I love property. I can see how it can just change people's financial lives significantly. She's so much happier now that she does have that nest egg for her son. And that's her property up in just west of Brisbane. And the other type of people that I can help, and I'm finding that people, as they get into their, say, 40s, especially late 30s, 40s, is that they're starting to think, we'd love to buy an investment property, but we don't know where to start. We don't know who to trust. Where do we buy? What type of property do we buy? They've got good equity in their homes. So this is more recently, a couple in Whitebridge. 4 children, had their own house and had $280,000 in equity in their home. And so many people now have a lot of equity in their homes. I know that the property owners here in Newcastle, for example, and I'm one of them, you've got a lot of equity in your homes now because the values have gone up. And that's all very well, but what are you going to do with it? You can leverage that, the power of leverage it, by borrowing to buy another property. And they kept on waiting for a better time though. When I first met them, look, I think prices are going up at the moment, but I think they'll go down next year, so we'll wait. And as my dad used to say, the best time to buy property was 30 years ago. That's gone. Do it now. Don't put it off any longer at all. So I told them, I had a chat with them and I said, look, go and do something, or I'm happy to help. And they said, would you be able to help us? And I said, yes. So I found a property for them in Florida Beach, a state over in Western Australia. They bought it in 2021. Now, because of the building delays that have been happening, it took a fair while to complete. It was only 3 weeks ago that the handover occurred, but an appraisal was done in August, $615,000. In fact, they went over to have a look at the property, and the builder took them around and showed them the area. And the builder said, "How much did you pay for this place?" And they said, $436,000. He said, "You're kidding." He said, "You've made, well, $170,000 in 2 years since you signed the contracts." So another example of just by doing something, by getting started, how you can do so well. That's their property. It was just about to be finished over in Florida Beach. And why I love what I do is because without exception, people say to me, "Look, Scott, without you, we would have done nothing." And that's what most people do, unfortunately, because it is difficult. I remember Jodie and I bought our first property in 2001. We started relatively late in life, but I found it quite, it was time consuming, put it that way. So even though I'd been in property and finance since I left school, it was still difficult for me. So it is difficult, and so many people do nothing because of that. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. So again, just do it. Again, I say to all my clients, you don't have to use me to do it. You can go and do it yourselves if you think you can. But another thing I love about what I do is I get people started, and then a few years later they come back and say, "We're going to do it again." I say, "Yeah, great, fantastic, go and do it again." Because you can leverage not just your own home, you can leverage the equity in the investment property as well to buy another property, buy more properties. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. You said in the me, but I think you'll know if you don't use Scott, you're not doing the right thing. So please